Toronto Maple Leafs are preparing to face the Florida Panthers Tuesday, coming off a big win over the Pittsburgh Penguins Saturday. Toronto went into Monday second last in the Eastern Conference, but a familiar foe believes that everyone is overreacting.
Obviously, with the media attention and the fan support that they have in Toronto, things get blown way out of proportion up there. But yeah, they definitely don't think that in the room. What are they, 4 points out of playoff spot? Or if people are thinking they're out of playoff spot for the season, they got to find a new job.
We like the job we have, Marchand. Harvey's hot takes. Here he is, Bryan Hayes, to talk about it. We remember when Brad Marchand was trolling the Leafs in their second-round playoff series last year. Here he is again. Now, maybe it's not trolling. Bryan, should we be taking Brad Marchand at face value here?
I'm going to do my best Chris Rock impression here for you, Jay. Right message, wrong messenger. Right message, wrong messenger, right? Because he's not wrong. It's 25 games into the season. The Leafs are just on the outside looking in. The Leafs are in a position where they've been very good in the regular season for a long time, and they better have some confidence and some belief behind closed doors that they could still make the playoffs. But this isn't the guy who should be saying it because it's not sincere. It's not genuine. It's Brad Marchand. And yes, he's trolling the Leafs. Yes, he's trolling Leaf fans. And he's trolling Leaf media, and we're all going to fall for it hook, line, and sinker because he's the best at it. And let's be clear at what Brad Marchand represents to the Maple Leafs. He is the number one modern-day villain. He may be the biggest villain in Maple Leaf history, right? 5-0 against the Leafs in Game 7s. 5-0. He has licked players. He has submarined players. He has injured players. He has chirped players. He has laughed at them as he's left the ice. But now, all of a sudden, he's so concerned about their well-being. Right now, we have to believe that Brad Marchand is really concerning himself with how Maple Leaf players are perceived in the market that's not his market. He's from Halifax, and he spent his whole career in Boston and Florida now. He's not from Toronto. He's not a Leaf fan. He's never played for the team. And let's not forget, if he wanted to play for the team, if he really cared about the psyche of the Maple Leafs and really cared, like he's trying to portray, really being supportive of Matthews and Nylander and all the boys down here in Toronto, he could have signed with the Leafs. He knew that they were going to offer him a blank check. He knew that Brad Treliving and the Leafs would have done anything to sign him back in July. He chose not to do it because he doesn't really care about the Leafs. He's trolling the Leafs. He plays the game so beautifully. He loves this role that he plays. He knows he's better at it than anyone else, and he loves to beat up on the Leafs. And I'm sure he's expecting to go into that big game on Tuesday night where Florida hasn't been great this year, but they've got multiple cup rings. The Leafs haven't been great this year, but the last time they played the Florida Panthers, they embarrassed themselves on home ice in Game 7. And I'm sure he's thinking maybe the Leafs will finally get up for a big game like this. But you know who I guarantee you will get up for that big game? Brad Marchand. And if he wins, he'll be trolling after the game like he always does.
Now, there's only one Canadian team currently in a postseason position at the moment. That would be the Montreal Canadiens. So if the playoffs started today, Bryan, that means that Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, Connor Hellebuck, Quinn Hughes, players who have won Hart trophies and Vezina trophies and Norris trophies, those five superstars who play for Canadian teams would not be in the postseason if the postseason started right now. What do you make of this situation?
It's concerning. It's very concerning because, you just referenced the resume of those players, and they've been up here. These are all veterans. They've been in Vancouver and Edmonton and Winnipeg and Toronto for a long, long time, and they've won it all. They've done it all. And yet it feels as if the window has possibly closed on what should have been the greatest era since the 80s, right? Back in the 80s when the Oilers and the Flames and the Habs were winning Stanley Cups and Gretzky won 8 straight Harts and Mark Messier won a Hart Trophy in 90 as the captain of the Edmonton Oilers that won the Stanley Cup that year. Since 1990, all the way up until when McDavid won his first Hart in 2017, there were 3 players playing on Canadian teams that won the Hart Trophy. Jose Theodore, I still can't believe he did it, but Jose Theodore and Jerome McGinley was right there with him at that point. Carey Price and Henrik Sedin. But 6 of the last 9 have been on Canadian teams like McDavid, like Draisaitl, Hellebuck, Matthews. Hughes has won a Norris. He could win a Hart. And if this is where we're going, where the teams just aren't good enough, and all these players are now older players, and they've probably all teed off on the back nine, maybe Quinn Hughes notwithstanding, then we missed out on what should have been a great, great decade for Canadian hockey. And it has been on an individual level, because we haven't had, collectively as a country, the best players playing on, quote-unquote, our teams since the 80s. The 90s, the early 2000s, the 2010s, there were some moments, but not like what we've had recently. And McDavid, Draisaitl, they should have a cup by now. They don't. And I don't think they can do it this year. I don't think they can get up off the mat like they have the past 2 years. Vancouver's in a very dark place. And it's Quinn Hughes, big part of the conversation. Does he want to be there? Does he want to be in Jersey and play with his brothers? Even if he wants to be there, will it make sense if they're going to rebuild or retool in the future? Austin Matthews and the Leafs really struggling. Connor Hellebuyck's hurt right now. Winnipeg's in a really bad place. So these are all great, great players, all-time great players. We've been lucky enough to watch them play north of the 49th for a long time. The team success has not met the individual success. And the truth is, as of today, Jay, it feels like all of these teams, Montreal Canadiens included, Ottawa Senators included, are as far away from a Stanley Cup as they have been at any point in the last 10 years.
Let's focus on the Blue Jays then, because they surprised everybody last week, Brian, when they reportedly landed maybe the top pitcher in free agency in Dylan Cease. By this time next week when we chat, the winter meetings will be underway. Do you believe at that point that Toronto will leave Florida with a big bat in their lineup?
I think they'll certainly be connected to a big bat. I mean, you know the way the offseason works in Major League Baseball. It can be very slow moving. You know, it goes at a weird pace, and every year is a little bit different. So there's never any guarantee that a Kyle Tucker will sign by next week or a Bo Bichette will make a decision by next week. But I firmly believe the Blue Jays will be heavily connected. And I don't believe, for the first time in a long time, they're just being used to up the ante somewhere else. I think if the Blue Jays get to a point where they want a Kyle Tucker, they could probably get a Kyle Tucker. I truly believe if they want Bo Bichette, they will get Bo Bichette. And that is a difference between today and this time last year, where it never felt like they were going to get Juan Soto. It never really felt like they were going to get Shohei Ohtani or Yoshi Yamamoto or whoever else they've been kicking tires on for years. Now it's truly flipped. And now it's gotten to a point where you got to ask yourself, do they have the stomach to say no to any of these players? Because all of a sudden you're in a division here where the Yankees ownership is claiming they don't make profits. The Boston Red Sox are basically built and operated and run by bean counters. And you got an ownership here in Toronto that has had a taste of something they haven't tasted in a long time. And this owner in particular has never tasted it, right? Rodgers didn't own the team when they were winning World Series 30 years ago. So if they want to get bold, like they did with Dylan Cease, like they did with Vladdy Guerrero Jr., they can keep doing it. And it's getting to a point now where they kept trying to throw money at other guys, and they kept hearing no. Now I think they're going to hear yes. And can they stomach having maybe the highest payroll in baseball or real close to it? And I think if they do, what you're going to get is a marketing campaign during the offseason that will actually pay off, because they've had active off seasons in the past, but it didn't necessarily materialize to winning. When you consider what they already have, what they just accomplished in 2025, you had Dylan Cease, maybe Tucker, maybe Bichette, maybe some bullpen help, and all of this is not pie in the sky stuff. All of a sudden you got a scenario here where the Jays could be bigger and better than ever. So I absolutely believe they're going to be in on these guys. I absolutely believe they're going to sign at least one big bat. I'm just not convinced it'll be this time next week, but they're not being used anymore. You know, they're in the game. They're playing. And I think the rest of the league is actually looking at the Blue Jays and wondering what they're going to do as opposed to the opposite way, which is the way it's been for a long, long time.
Man, you've already got me excited about next season, but as for the Maple Leafs, you can see them on this network Tuesday night in the Leafs region when they face Brad Marchand and the Florida Panthers. This has been Bryan Hayes, and this has been Harvey's Hot Takes.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Things are heating up with Harvey's Buffalo Chicken lineup, including the Buffalo Chicken Sandwich, wrap, nuggets, or poutine for a whole lot of spicy, saucy flavor. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.